Aloha and welcome to the Rights and Rules for Small Businesses. My name is Annette Lynch. I'm with Maui Economic Development Board, host of this webinar with the support of the County of Maui and powered by SBA. We're delighted that you're here. And I'm just quickly going to bring in some housekeeping, which is pretty much, please stay muted. You'll have a chance at the end to ask questions and to unmute yourself then. Please rename yourself. There's the option within Zoom that you can put your name, put your business name so we know where you're coming from. And again, when we have Q&A at the end, you can either use the chat section or you can raise your hand and ask your question verbally. So the agenda today is very simple. We've got this introduction. We're going to shortly introduce the guest speakers and then we'll have Q&A at the end. I'm going to pass the mic to President and CEO of Maui Economic Development. Please welcome Leslie Wilkins.
Thank you, Annette. Aloha and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in another one of MEDB's Business Assistance webinars. We believe that small business is absolutely the pathway to a stronger economy here on Maui and the state of Hawaii, and it's also a way to help diversify and strengthen our economy. So welcome to you. We know you're very busy, so thank you for joining us during your lunch hour. Today, we're delighted to have two members of the one member of the board and one very vital staff member address you from, this is a long name, the Hawaii State Small Business Regulatory Review Board. And I think their acronym is even longer than pronouncing it out. But anyway, they do great work in trying to build a friendly work environment for small business, a regulatory environment. They also are critical advisors to the state legislature and the administration, as well as to the counties. So today joining us, this is a profile, if you will, of the various businesses that are online with us today. A lot of LLC businesses. Most of you are smaller businesses with less than 10, which is quite common for Maui County businesses. Also, we have several mature businesses that are here that have been in business for a long time and possibly have faced some regulatory challenges. So we welcome you. These are the business types that are here. Happy to see the agricultural community and sector represented, as well as the science and tech sector. Next slide. And it is definitely an honor and a privilege to have these two women joining us today. First, I'd like to introduce Mary Albitz. She is actually vice chair of this body. They are appointed with a formula set out in statute. The Speaker of the House, the Senate President, the Governor gets appointing a power, as well as the body itself. Mary was appointed by her peers on the board, and she represents the geographic region for us, Maui Nui, Maui County, and she's also a business owner herself of Island Art Party. Also joining us is that very essential office assistant who manages, I'm sure, all things for the board, and that is Jatem Ariola. Thank you for joining us and sharing your mana'o with us today.
We do have a slideshow, so Jatem is pulling that up for us momentarily.
All right.
All right, yeah, it's a long name. It's a mouthful. Small Business Regulatory Review Board, SBRRB is what we go by the acronym of. So why are small businesses important? Approximately 25 years ago, the federal government determined that small businesses were the backbone of the U.S. economy. Because of this, the federal government created the Federal Small Business Regulatory Flexibility Act. In response, the Hawaii legislature 20 years ago created the Hawaii Small Business Regulatory Flexibility Act. when they did this, that's when, and the purpose of it, as you can see on the screen, is ensure regulation not burden small businesses disproportionately by imposing uniform regulations on all entities regardless of size. Hence why there's a lot of various rules, ordinances, all kinds of stuff that doesn't apply to, very small businesses. So 1998 is when we were created. And according to CNBC's 2022 annual study that puts all 50 states to the test, measuring them on more than 85 different metrics in 10 key categories of competitiveness, Hawaii's ranked 46th. We were 49th last year. We gained some ground, so we're 46th in 2022. So we're 19th in workforce, 39th in infrastructure, 50th in cost of doing business, no surprise, right? 49th in access to capital, which I know MEDB is working diligently with underserved communities on that, and 48th in our economy. We're 35th in business friendliness, which is a little bit slight. We're getting better in that category. And we rate really well in life, health, and inclusion. So we're ranked 3rd in that. So we got that going for us, as we all know. All right. So although Hawaii is not recognized as a business-friendly state, Hawaii has the tools to change that changes. And one of those tools is the SBRRB. So the SBRRB's vision and mission. Most small businesses do not have the resources to cope with the volume of paperwork that the state imposes, right? As a result, Hawaii small businesses are often faced with limited resources for compliance with regulations. Because of these limitations, the SBRRB's vision is to make Hawaii the most business-friendly state in the nation. Now, you may laugh at that. I sometimes want to laugh at it, but we, as a board, hold true to that vision and always are working towards that. Our mission is to work toward a regulatory environment that encourages and supports the vitality of small business in Hawaii. Now, how do we do that? So the board assists with regulatory relief by advocating to improve business and the regulatory environment. For Hawaii businesses, this is essential to a strong economic environment. So Chapter 201M of Hawaii revised statutes created the SBRRB. And so we advocate for for-profit small businesses and entrepreneurs. And those are defined as businesses, for-profit businesses that have 100 or fewer employees. So we have the authority to comment, make recommendations on small business regulations and administrative rules. And we'll go over later some examples and how we do that.
All right. The board the statute allows for 11 individuals. The SBRRB is a group of 11 individuals who are either current or former business owners or officers that volunteer their time by meeting once a month at a formal board meeting. They review, of course, new, proposed, and existing Hawaii administrative rules that impact small business. The statute allows for 11 board members. There are currently 11 board members, including Mr. Mark Ritchie. Actually, no, this is Will Lidgate from Kauai County. And the statute requires at least one member from every island. We have Will Lidgate from Kauai County. And then we have Miss Mary Albitz, our vice chair, and that's from Maui County. There are 2 members from the Big Island. We have James Lee, Hawaii County, Garth Yamanaka, Hawaii County. We also have 3 board members. Well, we actually have 5 board members from Oahu. We have Jonathan Schick, our second vice chair, We have Dr. Nancy Atmos Welsh, and we have our chair, Robert Cundiff of the Honolulu County. Our DBED director is also a board member, but we have Mark Ritchie, who sits on as a designated representative of the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism Department. We also have Ms. Tessa Gomes, she is Honolulu County, and Mr. Sanford Morioka, Honolulu County. With William Lydgate on Kauai County, we have Taryn Rodigero, also a small business owner. Here on Oahu, Dory Palkovich and myself are the staff of DBED. Dory Palkovich is our administrator, and I am the office assistant. So the board itself identifies regulations and they suggest alternatives for compliance and recommend modifications to rules that unevenly impose burdens on small business. The board works closely with the state and county agencies to avoid unnecessary burdens on small businesses during rule writing. We encourage small businesses to get involved as early on as possible during the rule writing process. That way they're informed of the changes and whatever modifications are being made to those rules. And the state itself does include small businesses with a pre-public hearing process and an after public hearing process as well. And I think that's you, Mary.
Yeah. So upon review of some comments, upon review of the rules and regulations, we can make comments directly to these agencies or to the governor or to mayors. And our comments can range from recommending that the rules proceed to public hearing, or that the rules are adopted. Sometimes we make recommendations until more outreach to the small business community is performed. We always recommend that and appreciate when departments have done that. So many departments who deal with us quite often know that we're going to expect that. And so they've started reaching out more thoroughly to their stakeholders. The minimum notification that they have to do is only putting it in the paper 30 days in advance of their public hearing. So there's some departments that is all they do. So if you want to make sure that you're notified of these, you can get in touch with JETM and get on our newsletter so that you are aware of when different departments are working on changing rules or writing new rules that may affect you. All right. And a few occasions we have opposed the rules. Recently, we, even though they had gone to public hearing, we did not advise that they go to the governor. So there's times that we, especially when we feel like small businesses have not been, that their input has not been included into the rule making process enough. And especially when it has severe negative impacts on the small business and their financial stability, we will definitely support more work on those rules. All right, so recent example, this is when I first joined the board too, back in 2018. The Department of Transportation, they had started allowing Uber and Lyft to operate at the airport in Oahu. And it was a pilot program, and but it was causing a financial impact on the taxi cab drivers. And taxi cab driver, Charlie's Taxi, they submitted a review, the regulation for review, and asked for our help in working with the Department of Transportation. So we contacted Department of Transportation, questioned whether Department of Transportation was going to create rules for these drivers, and their answer was no. And then we approached the governor requesting his assistance in helping to establish a fair and equitable playing field for all commercial drivers at the airport. Because the taxi cabs and limos and all that kind of stuff, they had to go through all kinds of licenses and insurance forms and, all kinds of documentation and getting approval to operate there, and continued things that they had to do in order to operate there. So then after approaching the governor, within a very short period of time, Department of Transportation did approach us with proposed changes to the existing rules entitled Commercial Services at Public Airports. After reviewing the proposed amendments and sending them back to Department of Transportation over a 3-month period for Department of Transportation to perform more outreach with the impacted parties, the rules were subsequently recommended to the governor for adoption. Without our assistance, the rules would not have led to a fair process and review. And this type of situation is what really gives me hope for humanity, because when we do involve everyone, even though it takes longer to do that, we usually end up with something that everyone can at least tolerate, if not fully agree on. So, and for the most part, we can get almost all the parties to agree. So next up is Jatem.
All right. How can you help the SBRB? Small businesses, the SBRB, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from Hawaii's small business community. It takes a partnership with the SBRB, state and county agencies, Hawaii small businesses and business organizations to work in unison with each other to assist in removing the anti-business stigma that has long plagued Hawaii. One of the ways you can help the SBRB is through the board's regulation for review. On our website, the regulation for review is let me share my screen. Hold on just a second. My screen is not. I'm trying to move this toolbar. Here we go. And I think, can you see my screen where it says submit a regulation for review?
No, because they're still seeing the slides.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Might have to stop share and then share again.
Well, I think it's inside the slides. Okay, so tools for small businesses on our website. We have the rulemaking process. It has a chart of small business involvement and the SBRB and the departments and agencies. It is a flow chart of what to expect during the rulemaking process from start to finish. Whether it's the department that comes to the board pre-public hearing, or if it's the small business submitting a regulation for review, it shows where you want to get involved and what the process is from start to finish once it goes to the governor or the mayor to become a rule or to finalize the amendments to the proposed rulemaking. We also have a rule status tracker. So every month at our board meetings, we have a handful of rules that come through. You can actually see where it stands in the process from start to finish. So pre-public hearing, the rule would be brought to the board and it would show where the board made its recommendation, if it's proceeding to public hearing or if it needs to go back, and if the departments and agencies need to still meet with stakeholders and continue to involve the stakeholders and small businesses. And then it's going to show the next process after public hearing as well, all the way till the time that's it's adopted, and in terms of the board making that recommendation. On our website, we also have all of our meeting dates. So when the board meets every month, our agendas are available on our website, along with previous meeting minutes and packet information. In the packets, it's normally the department or agency's pre-public hearing or after public hearing information, as well as our exhibits that the board will review at that meeting. And then, of course, like I was discussing earlier, the regulation for review. So as a small business, if there is a rule that is, or regulation that is burdening your business, this is where you would submit it on our website. You would submit your name, and if there is the rule number or regulation, then of course the board can review it and help assist you. And they would of course notify you accordingly in terms of the process and how the board can help. So if there is something, you know, affecting your business, we would encourage the small businesses to come to the board, so the board can review it and see how they can help you. Okay.
One of our purview is only rules. So any ordinances or statutes, we are not allowed to make recommendations on. So we've tried to add, sometimes we've tried to add statutes, but there's been pushback on that. So currently it's only rules. And these are ways that you can contact us. Of course, our website, which I saw Leilani put into the chat. So you can go to our website, there's our phone number. You can visit one of our meetings. And Shatem has got us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Go girl. Oh. Then
all right. So in the meantime, I can go ahead and pull up our Bill of Rights. And I think that's what we wanted to discuss with everyone today.
And I'll go ahead and start talking about it. In 2003, the legislature approved the SBRB to create a Bill of Rights for small business. And they worked on it and worked on getting it passed from 2004 to 2006. They went back and forth, rewording it, reworking it, all that kind of stuff. And it still has not gone through. The main reason is because the Attorney General and the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs wanted it called Bill of Expectations, because they didn't want to be held accountable for any possible litigation for, you know, that might possibly come out of the Bill of Rights not being followed. So we did not like that name, and so we still call it the Bill of Rights. So it's what we promote and work from, although it has not been fully enacted yet. So these rights that we feel that small businesses have are mostly about how various departments should be expected to operate with you. So mostly in regards to you requesting information and them requesting information from you and how those processes should work. There's also right number 2 is the right to a clear, stable, and predictable regulatory and record-keeping environment with easily accessible information and administrative rules in as clear and concise language as is practicable, including the posting of all proposed administrative rule changes on the internet website of the Office of Lieutenant Governor. So that is where we are very involved. And a lot of times the departments are coming to us to make their rules more concise and easier for all involved. So most of the time that is the case. Just occasionally there's not. So let's see. And then there's another one I wanted to point out, number 10. The right to all of the protections afforded in the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. So I thought that was interesting. And then number 16, the right to administrative rule review pursuant to the Small Business Regulatory Flexibility Act by filing a petition with the Small Business Regulatory Review Board in accordance with Section 201 M6 of the Hawaii Revised Statute, which is what Shetem had been talking about previously. So there's also occasional ones, some information about, with permits and the permitting process, and our Bill of Rights is all about focusing on how to make those kind of things and processes easier for small business. So, that's all I have about the Small Business Bill of Rights.
Great. Well, I know we've got links in there.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go, Leslie. Go ahead, Annette. Go, Leslie.
I was just going to say, if your eyes are like mine and you have a laptop, it's really too hard to read on your screen to all of our participants. Leilani did put a link to the document in the chat. Thank you, Annette.
Yes, there's definitely a link there, and we'll be sure to send out links to a lot of the resources and for link from our website as well. I'd love to open up to any questions that our attendees will have for Mary or Shetem about the rights, the rules, and while you're thinking of your question, I'm going to pose one. The example you gave with the taxis and everything was really helpful to sort of put in our mind of how you advocate for small businesses. Are there any other similar stories that you can think of to relate, perhaps a recent success that you're particularly proud of, or anything to share for some of our business owners here? And if you while they're answering that, if you do have a question, post it in the chat or stick up your hand for us. Hello.
Oh, there's a couple other examples. Most recently was hearing with DOBOR, which is Department of, oh God, I forget. It's the water department under DLNR. I forgot all the letters, boating and recreation or something like that. Anyways, regarding the manta ray viewing and, off of the Big Island, off of Kona Coast. And so the rules that they had come up with would impact the businesses by reducing a lot of their income, probably by like 75%. And even though DLNR, because they've been working on it for so many years, pushed it through their meetings and post-public hearing, we disagreed with it and said, no, we won't accept, we won't approve of this going to the governor for signing. So that's one we're kind of proud of. And then another one was the tax department changing rules on the film industry back in November of 2019. And it really severely impacted them. And we lost some TV shows. So you may have realized all of a sudden they weren't on TV anymore. So they did the minimum. They posted their meeting notice September 13th. They had their public hearing October 14th. They had testimony. People did show up and they had testimony. And then they signed, post-public hearing, they signed, sent to the governor for signing their rules, but they had changed a lot of the rules post-public hearing. And so they had, then they were submitted to us, and we had testimony on that. That's talked to us about that. So we again wrote a letter to the governor saying, we are not okay with the process. The process was not followed, and the changes that they made were not okay. And it put an undue burden not only on some small businesses, but also on the department, the DBED person who works with the filming industry. She had to all of a sudden implement all these new changes, and had no lead time to do it in. So yeah, it's interesting. And there's other departments who, oh gosh, I can't remember which department it was off the top of my head right now, but he went way above, notified everybody, it seemed like. And so, it had like 4 people to answer any questions that people might have had, on the call with it. And, but he had done such a, thorough explanation and thorough research and thorough that we had, okay, you're good. It was super clear and super fair to small business. So.
Sounds like a well thought out process with a lot of back and forth, no doubt, a lot of input. And so it's up to the small business owners on the call here to be proactive and keep their eye on various regulations coming up through you and putting in their input. Maybe if you're not thinking of a question, think about your situation as a small business owner. I'm talking to those who are listening, and what kind of regulations affecting you that you think would need some changes. And you can post, look at those as questions to fuel for thought. I was going to ask, I'm curious with the pandemic happening, did that change some things? Were you suddenly getting busy with affecting various rules and regulations that were coming around with that?
Actually, it slowed down quite a bit because so many people were out of work and not in their offices and not doing regular, I don't know, just the regular duties, right? So it did slow down quite a bit, actually. But we were, because of the state proclamation of being able to meet online, we could still meet if there were things to cover. So, and just to give a focus on Maui, since I've been on the board, the only department that has submitted rules to our board is the liquor department. So, but they didn't have anybody show up to present them or to talk about what kind of outreach they did, so I just, given that I have a liquor license, I could say I had reviewed them myself and could say that, these are all beneficial to small business. So there was one that was slightly questionable, but basically, we could do that. So we're currently in the process of educating all the departments in Maui to that might have rules, and those, I know I sent those to you. I know this is the planning department, the liquor department, Department of Transportation, and I think there was 1 or 2 others, I can't recall. But we're currently working on educating them, and I'll be meeting with the Department of Liquor next week. So, and then also recently the planning department was trying to push some rules through, and I testified on that one that they should be coming to our board first, and we still haven't seen them. So, and those rules had some beneficial qualities for small business, but there were also some not so beneficial ones that fortunately they were referred to a later date because there was enough testimony that said that you need more stakeholder outreach, more stakeholder outreach, right? And that's what we push and push and push. So, because like I said, the results you can get from that is just amazing.
I think as a small business owner, the best way to get involved too is to become a member of either your chamber in your county or of the trade that your business is running in. That way you are notified as a stakeholder, and to get involved that way, because the Chamber of Commerce is, the voice for small business too. So we highly encourage involvement from you as small business owners to kind of just be proactive. That way you can find out if there are rules or regulations that will affect your business. And that's how you get notified, because they're really following the legislative process from start to finish. And so that as a small business owner myself, 5 years ago, I really didn't know that the board existed. So I think in terms of like Department of Taxation, they're increasing taxes, or, general excise tax, things like that. It would have been helpful to be notified, because you as a small business owner, you're really busy running your business. So you really can't keep tabs on the rules or regulations. That's far from your priority, because you are busy running your business. So I think if you can get involved in your chambers, things like the taxation, rules, those things the Chamber of Commerce would they would be extremely helpful to gather that information and to submit it to their business stakeholders too. So I just want to encourage the business owners to get involved.
Yeah, thanks, Jitem, for that reminder. So that is one of the values of being a member of the Chamber of Commerce, or like for me, the Maui Hotel and Lodging Association, because they do advocate for us. And if they're not advocating for you, they keep tabs on all this legislation. And so if they do send out a notice about something, that's a good time to show your support in their advocating for you. So, and then it multiplies the effect.
Great. Well, we really appreciate the valuable information, and then we have a bunch of resources that we put in the chat, so make sure you have those resources. We'll be sending those out. I'm just going to quickly share my screen again. We have another resource for us. We appreciate everyone joining us and listening to this presentation. It always helps us to get your feedback. What did you think? What can we improve? And what other topics and subjects do you want to hear from, so that we continue to service small businesses and help you the best we can. Big thanks to Mary and Jitem for their presentation. And, I hope everyone gained something from knowing a little bit more about the rights and rules for small business. Mahalo.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for sharing. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having us.